Have you ever really thought about what happens inside your body when blood flow to a crucial organ just stops? It's a serious medical situation called ischemia, and understanding it is absolutely key to getting your head around things like heart attacks and strokes. So today, we're going to break it all down. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle what ischemia actually means. Then, we're going to use a pretty cool analogy, a city, to see exactly how it works. After that, we'll get into the really high-stakes stuff, what happens to our cells, the crazy race against time to fix it, and finally, the two very different ways it can all end, with reversible or irreversible damage. So, first things first, let's talk about this word, ischemia. It sounds pretty complex, right? But where it comes from is actually surprisingly simple. The word itself tells you pretty much the whole story. It comes from two Greek words, ischo, which means to restrain or hold back, and emia, which means blood. So put them together, and ischemia literally means restrained blood. And since blood is basically your body's oxygen delivery service, less blood flow means less oxygen. And that's exactly where all the trouble starts. Now, this whole restraining the blood thing usually happens in one of two main ways. You can get a blockage from the inside, think of a blood clot, a thrombus, just plugging up the pipe. Or you can get pressure from the outside, maybe from a bad injury that causes a ton of swelling, and that swelling just squeezes the blood vessel shut. Either way, the result is the same. The flow gets choked off. Okay, to make this concept crystal clear, we're going to use an analogy. I want you to stop thinking about organs as just tissue and start thinking of them as bustling cities. So welcome to Organopolis. In this awesome city, the thousands of individual cells are all the different homes and buildings. And the red blood cells, well, they're the tireless delivery drivers zipping around town delivering the one thing everyone needs to survive, oxygen. Now, a healthy city has a great road system, right? So in Organopolis, the arteries are these huge one-way superhighways bringing all the delivery trucks into the city. The capillaries are all the little neighborhood streets where the actual deliveries happen, door to door. And the veins? Those are the highways leading out of the city, taking all the empty trucks and the garbage away. Simple. So, what happens when this perfect system breaks down, right? What if there's a massive pileup on the main highway, the one leading into Organopolis? This is ischemia in action, right here. The main artery is blocked, so way fewer red blood cells can even get into town. That means oxygen delivery just tanks, and the entire city of Organopolis becomes ischemic. A perfect real-world example of this is atherosclerosis. That's when plaque buildup creates a traffic jam in the arteries feeding your heart, causing ischemic heart disease. Okay, but what if the problem isn't getting in? What if the delivery trucks can get into the city just fine, but they can't get out? This creates a whole different kind of chaos. With the exit ramp blocked, traffic backs up. Everywhere. We're talking total gridlock on every single street in the city. The pressure just skyrockets, and things get so jammed that fluid actually starts leaking out of the blood vessels, causing swelling, which is called edema. A really specific example of this is something called Budd-Chiari syndrome, where a clot blocks the veins draining the liver, and the whole organ just gets congested and ischemic. So you can see, whether the traffic jam is on the way in or on the way out, Organopolis is in a major crisis. So now let's talk about what this means for the actual citizens of our city, the cells themselves. And this gets us to the most urgent question of all. What happens to all those homes in the city when the oxygen deliveries just stop for too long? This brings us to a super important idea, the ischemic penumbra. Think of the penumbra as the neighborhoods in Organopolis that are in the most danger. The cells here are literally starving for oxygen. They're starting to die, but, and this is key, they're not dead yet. They are right there, teetering on the brink. And they can still be saved, but only if someone clears that traffic jam fast. And that's really what it all comes down to, isn't it? A desperate, frantic race against the clock to rescue those dying cells. Now, when we talk about fixing the problem, it's important to know the difference between two ideas, blood flow and perfusion. Blood flow is the total amount of blood an organ gets. The liver is huge, right? So it gets a high total flow. But perfusion is about how much blood a specific chunk of tissue gets. The kidneys are small, but they are packed with vessels, so their perfusion is incredibly high. So the goal isn't just to get blood flowing again, it's to restore perfusion to that suffering tissue. And time is literally everything. This is called time to reperfusion. If you can restore that perfusion within minutes, the damage is often completely reversible. No big deal. But if you wait for hours, cells start to die off for good. And if you wait too long, well, the damage becomes irreversible. What's pretty amazing, though, is that the body sometimes has its own disaster relief plan. It's called collateralization. This is where other, smaller arteries that happen to be in the same area can start to pitch in. Over weeks, these vessels can actually grow bigger to bring in more blood, kind of like building emergency supply routes. Now, it can't solve the problem overnight, but it can sometimes keep that critical penumbra alive just a little bit longer. So all of this, the blockage, the penumbra, the race against time, it all leads to one of two final outcomes. The best case scenario is what we call reversible ischemia. This is the big win. This is what happens when doctors can clear that blockage and restore perfusion fast enough. The cells in Organopolis were starving, they were dying, but they weren't dead yet. The city can make a full recovery. But if too much time passes, the outcome is tragic. Irreversible ischemia. The cells in that penumbra, that danger zone, have crossed the point of no return. They've died. And once a cell is dead, there's no bringing it back. The damage is permanent. And the devastating reality of a heart attack, a myocardial infarction, is the textbook example of irreversible ischemic damage. A whole section of the heart muscle itself dies from that lack of oxygen. That piece of the pump is gone forever, and it permanently weakens the heart's ability to do its job. So, this leaves us with one last thought. If our organs really are like cities, and ischemia is a catastrophic traffic jam that can cause parts of that city to die, how does that change the way we think about keeping our own body's highways clear and flowing freely?